Hello to all of my friends in public television. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank you for your support of Finding Your Roots and for our newest series on the history of the Black Church.
Hello, I'm Sheila Lee, the host of Morning Joy on WRVS 89.9, and I am excited to bring you this feature interview with Stacey Holman, senior producer and director for the upcoming documentary series, The Black Church. This is our story. This is our song, airing in two parts on February 16th and February 17th on PBS. Now, this highly anticipated series will reveal the broad history and culture of the Black Church and explore African American faith communities on the front line of hope and change. The Black Church, this is our story. This is our song is brought to you in partnership with PBS, WETA TV, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. Let's meet our guests.
Stacey L. Holman is a Harlem-based filmmaker who's directed and produced several award-winning projects, including Episode 3 of the 2018 PBS series Reconstruction, America After the Civil War, hosted by Henry Louis Gates, Jr. She was a producer on the critically acclaimed documentary Tell Them We Are Rising, the story of Black colleges and universities, and served as an associate producer on the Emmy Award-winning film Freedom Riders, directed by Stanley Nelson. Additionally, Stacey was coordinating producer for the Nelson's Peabody Award-winning documentary Freedom Summer, and she was co-producer on Mary Lou Williams, The Lady Who Swings the Band. Stacey's short film, Dressed Like Kings, garnered the Tribeca Film Festival All Access Award and aired on the World Channel as part of the Afropop Shorts program. She was a series producer and director of Henry Louis Gates Jr.'s Black Church series, The Black Church. This is our story. This is our song. Scheduled to broadcast on PBS February 2021. And she is currently one of the producers and directors on Gates' Making Black America, African America Social Networks, airing on PBS in the fall of 2021.
Good evening, Ms. Holman. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Sheila. It's really a privilege. Thank you.
You know, this is an exciting time for all of us, especially with this documentary series. And I've got just a few questions I'd like to share that you can share with our audience on this evening. And first of all, we're excited to have you join us. It's excitement in there. I know you can feel it. I can feel it just from you. It's kind of like bouncing off of us. And I'm so excited that you're here to join us this evening on the eve of the debut of the Black Church. This is our story. I love saying it. This is our song. Please share how the idea for the documentary series came about.
Well, the host of the show, which is Henry Louis Gates Jr., has done many bodies of work that tell about the African American experience, which, sidebar, is the American experience. And he has a list of films that he wants to do. And this was in the lineup, and it got moved up. So I had worked with him on Reconstruction. I was one of the directors for Hour 3. And this was a project when I heard it was kind of there in the cachet. I was like, okay, I really, really want to be a part of this. And also it's a personal story for Skip. He grew up in the church, in the series that people will see just his testimony. We all know about that testimony of how we all came to know the Lord. And yes, he shares that with us. But we also knew that going in. So that was really insightful as we just navigated 400 years in 4 hours of just the thread and the fabric of the church, and really just adding that personal level to it, that personal touch, because the church and our relationship with God is very personal as well as public.
Yes, that is so true. That's just exciting to know that you're right there in the fabric of it. We look at a lot of documentaries or different things that we may, share from on TV or just in general. But it's so nice to say, hey, she's here. She's with our listeners, our viewers for WRVS. They can see someone who's actually in the threads of it. Wow. Okay, I'm going to come back. Let's go to the next one. Your next question is, from a technical perspective, describe the vision and approach that was taken in producing and directing this project.
Well, we had to just take a deep breath because it's a huge story we're trying to tell. And we had an amazing group of advisors, scholars, as well as people of the clergy, men and women, who could really speak to key stories that people would expect to hear. Stories that I was not familiar with, my team that we were not familiar with. We had an incredible archive team who were following every lead that we would find, and we had at least 12,000 assets. And when I say assets, that means pictures, documents, footage that we had to go through. Our editors had to sift through to find the best images, the best footage that would just set the tone. So there were many moving parts in making this happen. And some of these parts were happening all at once. I mean, we're in pre-production, but we're also doing archive. We're in post-production, but we're still looking for images. And then we're also just going across the country with Skip, interviewing some incredible, just historic icons in the Black church. And but also we're bringing people to New York, where our production is happening, to interview them and just spend an hour and a half to really ask them any question that we can. So if they wrote a book, like 400-page book, we're like, okay, we need you to summarize 400, 300, 200 pages in like an hour and a half. So.
Right. Wow. And, speaking of that, 400 years in two parts, 100 years an hour. I mean, how did you even begin to say, okay, we got this much that we need to do, 400 years, and we're going to do 4 hours, and we're going to do two parts. And how in the world did you get it all together? I mean, I heard what you just said, but even beyond that, please explain a little more.
Oh, sure. I mean, when you look at the first hour, we're looking at the early church, and we're even looking at slavery. So we figured if we look like in the 17 and the 1800s, we're looking at decades or centuries. So we're like 18th century. Okay, now the second hour, we can get into 19th century, and we can dip into 20th century. So with each century, we just kind of, pulled out those stories. Sometimes we did 2 centuries, and some of them kind of carried over, but that's how we really broke it down. Like we knew. And also too, one thing, this was earlier, we had a huge board that, a whiteboard that we were writing down all our outlines. And we even looked at like, okay, if we had to break this down biblically, the Genesis, what is the Genesis of the church? And where do we end in Revelations? So we kind of just looked at it that way. So we tried to just kind of put those thematic ideas at the forefront, so we can then figure out, okay, hour 3 is going to be about music. It's going to be about the Great Migration. It's going to be about the tension in the church. And hour 4 is going to talk about just how the church is expanding, how, people are either turning away, or how people are reinterpreting, or people really looking at church in a different way.
Wow. Well, I just think that that's phenomenal. It's very intriguing to think of the fact that as a team, you all were able to do such an awesome job to bring this all together. I think that everyone enjoyed it greatly. Another question. What was your most enjoyable moment during production?
Oh my gosh, that's like saying who's your favorite niece or nephew. In my case, but no, I will say some highlight moments, just broadly, going to all the incredible churches that we went to. We were in Savannah, Georgia, in First African Baptist, 1773. One of the first Black churches actually built by free and enslaved African men and women. And just the artistry, the architecture. Then we went to these cabins, these praise houses also in Georgia. I mean, these are like what some folks, if you live like in the suburbs of the country, your shack was probably a praise house, or could have been a praise house, where you had 50 to 80 men and women worship God in this small space. Also going to Chicago and seeing the storefront churches, Trinity, St. Sabine. So I think just seeing these incredible places of worship was an incredible highlight for me. And then also meeting some, like I said, some heavyweights. Bishop Vashti McKenzie was just like a wow for me. Also, I really enjoyed meeting Bishop Curry, and Reverend Barber is hilarious. So, and then also connecting with a friend, Reverend Otis Moss III. We went to high school together. So that was like really cool too. So it was just a lot of incredible experiences, but those were kind of the highlights of all of them, the many I experienced.
Oh, wow, that is exciting. Okay, what message would you like the audience to take from this film? The one most important message. I'm sure there's several.
Yeah,
the
hope. I would say hope. I would say hope. From the time that we were brought here against our will, we had hope. We were stripped of everything but hope. We knew God, we saw God, had many forms, but we held on to hope. And through that 400 years up until now, we continue to maintain that hope. So that's what I really want people to absorb, to be inspired by, to be moved by.
Wow. And you know what? Hope maketh not ashamed. I mean, there's always hope. Even if it's a glimmer, during that season. So, I mean, yes, that's phenomenal. And I agree with you that this documentary series will definitely give hope. Wow. Well, like I said, I'm just very, very excited about, again, you being here with us. What we're going to do next is, I'm just going to ask you this question. This is not one of the questions, but I really believe it will bless our viewers. As far as being in production, filmmaking, the things that you're doing now, just tell me how were you ushered into that area? Was it something you always wanted to do?
This is funny. I always was interested in entertainment. I knew growing up, I was like, I either want to be a psychiatrist or entertainment. And I was like, psychiatrist is too much time. Also, I was horrible at math. But I will say I went to Dillon University, also an HBCU. So this is great. Shout out to HBCUs. And literally, when I was looking at, once I finished school, where I wanted to go, grad school was a definite in our family, or must, I should say. And literally, I will say it was the Holy Spirit. Something said apply to NYU Film School. And I was looking at like communication programs, but something said apply to NYU Film School. And I listened, had no idea at the time that NYU was a top film school, had no idea that they were only accepted less than 30 people. Dillard at the time only had a communication program. They now have film. So in faith, I applied and I got in. And from there, the journey began. And it's truly a journey. There's no direct route to get to where you're going, especially in film. You may take some jobs that are just paying the rent jobs or research jobs, as I call them, research for characters, research for stories. However, it was just keeping my eye on the prize through it all and being able to tell these stories, and it's just been a blessing.
Well, you know what? I am thrilled to have had you on today. And again, Ms. Holman, Stacey, thank you so much for your time and for sharing those intimate things and information that has blessed us so much on tonight. Is there anything that you would like to share before we end it?
You kind of teased on it when you talked about faith communities. And I think another thing people should understand viewing it, the Black church is not monolithic. There are so many elements and extensions of it. If you look at the denominations of AME Zion, if you look at denominations of Baptists, we are not just one thing. We are many things. And in that many things, we have the richness, we have the fullness and the breadth of just who God is and who we are and how we've made it, how we've gotten through. Yes. And we're continuing to get through, truth be told, continuing to press.
Yes. Well, again, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who joined us for this presentation. We hope that you've enjoyed the conversation. And don't forget to tune in to PBS on February 16th and 17th for the two-part series, The Black Church. This is our story. This is our song. Thank you again, Stacey. I'm Sheila Lee. Good night.